The fork in my hand froze halfway to my mouth as my mother's words hung in the air between us. "You need to move out," she said casually, chewing another bite of the turkey I'd spent hours roasting. The Christmas lights reflecting in her wine glass suddenly seemed harsh and glaring, not festive. Across the table, my sister Olivia's eyes widened in shock, her hand instinctively reaching for mine under the tablecloth. "Really?" I managed, my throat constricting as I carefully set my fork down beside the homemade stuffing I'd woken up at 5 a.m. to prepare. "I pay the rent, cover the bills, and buy all the groceries." My voice remained steady even as I felt heat rising from my collar, the sensation of being ambushed in my own home, the home I financially supported, making my skin prickle uncomfortably. My mother simply shrugged, reaching for more cranberry sauce as if she'd merely commented on the weather forecast rather than detonated my entire life. The Christmas tree lights blinked in my peripheral vision, each color shifting in rhythm with my quickening pulse. "My name is Jessica. I'm 26 and an IT specialist. This is the story of how I reclaimed my worth after the woman I supported betrayed me at my own dinner table." For context, I hadn't moved in with my mother. She had essentially moved in with me. 3 years ago, when she lost her job at the insurance firm where she'd worked for 15 years, the foreclosure notices started arriving. I still remember the day I found her at the kitchen table, surrounded by past due bills. Her normally confident posture crumpled. "I'll handle it," I'd promised, moving back into my childhood bedroom that weekend. What was supposed to be temporary support became a permanent arrangement. Each month, $1,842 left my account for the mortgage, another $237 for utilities, $412 for groceries, $89 for her cell phone, $13.99 for her Netflix subscription. I tracked every penny in a spreadsheet I never showed her, never wanting her to feel like a burden. But somewhere around the 18-month mark, something shifted. Small criticisms became daily occurrences. If I loaded the dishwasher, I'd done it wrong. If I came home after 9 p.m., I was being inconsiderate. If my work calls interrupted her television shows, I was disrespectful. I told myself she was just struggling with her new dependency, that her pride was wounded. I rationalized every cutting remark, every cold shoulder, every guilt trip. After she dropped her Christmas dinner bombshell, I didn't create a scene. The moment crystallized something I'd been feeling for months. I had become a tenant in a home I paid for, tolerated rather than appreciated. As Olivia and our cousin Peter exchanged uncomfortable glances, I simply excused myself from the table, leaving behind the meal I'd spent all day preparing. In my bedroom, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the wall I'd repainted last spring when Mom mentioned she'd always hated the color. The dresser drawer where I kept my important documents was already partially open. I'd been checking my passport last week for a potential work trip. Now it seemed prophetic. I pulled out the drawer completely and began the mechanical process of gathering everything that mattered. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I methodically packed my belongings, sorting through years of accumulated life. What surprised me wasn't my efficiency, but my calmness. No tears, no rage, just a hollow acceptance that the person I'd sacrificed for had been waiting for the right moment to discard me. By 6:47 a.m., as the first gray light of post-Christmas morning filtered through my window, I had reduced my life to 2 suitcases, a laptop bag, and a small box of mementos. My mother's bedroom door remained firmly closed as I made 3 silent trips to load my car. I left my house key on the kitchen counter beside the coffee maker I'd bought her last birthday. No note, no dramatic goodbye, just the quiet click of the front door behind me. My friend Marcia answered on the first ring despite the early hour. "Need a place to crash?" she asked after I explained in as few words as possible. No questions about why, no judgment, just immediate support. The contrast between her instant kindness and my mother's calculated rejection wasn't lost on me. The first night on Marcia's couch, I stared at my phone, half expecting some recognition from my mother that she'd made a mistake. By the third night, as I signed the lease on a small studio apartment on Westfield Avenue, I had stopped checking for notifications from her. By the 5th night, as I assembled a secondhand bed frame in my new space, I realized she wasn't going to reach out at all. The silence was deafening. The woman who'd raised me, who I'd financially supported for 3 years, didn't even care enough to check if I had a roof over my head. The realization settled into my chest like concrete hardening. Then, 11 days after Christmas, my phone lit up with a message from Olivia. "Call me ASAP. You need to hear what Mom is telling everyone." I stepped out of my new apartment building into the bitter January cold to take the call, my breath forming clouds as Olivia's words hit me like physical blows. "She's telling everyone you abandoned her." My sister's voice trembled with anger. "She told Aunt Rachel you screamed at her during Christmas dinner and stormed out, leaving her with no way to pay bills. She's saying you've changed, become selfish and materialistic." The cold air suddenly wasn't enough. My lungs felt compressed, unable to expand fully as the betrayal deepened. It wasn't enough that she'd pushed me out. Now she was systematically destroying my reputation within our extended family. "Aunt Rachel is organizing a meal train for her," Olivia continued, disgust evident in her tone. "Uncle William called me asking what happened to you, why you'd do something so heartless. Mom's playing the victim perfectly, Jess, and people are believing her." That night, I checked my social media accounts to find the digital equivalent of doors slamming in my face. Uncle William had unfriended me on Facebook. Cousin Peter had removed me from our family group chat. Aunt Rachel, who had once promised to always be there for me after my father died, had posted a vague status about supporting family in difficult times that had garnered sympathetic comments from relatives I'd known my entire life. The injustice burned through the numbness I'd been cultivating. I'd given up promotions that required relocation to stay and support my mother. I'd postponed graduate school to maintain our financial stability. I'd sacrificed dating relationships that couldn't withstand my constant familial obligations. And my reward was character assassination. For 3 days, I drafted and deleted potential responses. A group message exposing the truth felt too defensive. Individual calls would be exhausting and might not be answered. Then, at 2:14 a.m. on a Tuesday, sitting on my still bare mattress with only the glow of my laptop illuminating my face, I found my approach. I wrote a post. Not an angry rant, not a desperate plea, but a methodical, fact-based account. I detailed the exact amount I'd paid monthly for the mortgage, $1,842. I listed the utilities I'd covered for 38 consecutive months. I explained how I'd come home from work to find her foreclosure notice and immediately stepped in. I described cooking the Christmas dinner she claimed I'd abandoned. And finally, I recounted her exact words. "You need to move out." No accusations, no name-calling. Just verifiable facts with dates, amounts, and specific details that couldn't be easily dismissed as emotional exaggeration. I ended with a simple statement. "I wish my mother well, but I cannot continue to financially support someone who doesn't value my presence." I posted it, shut my laptop, and finally slept soundly for the first time since Christmas. The digital earthquake hit while I slept. By the time I checked my phone the next morning, the notification counter had given up, simply showing 99 plus in bright red. Text messages, voicemails, comments, and private messages flooded in faster than I could process them. The first one I opened was from Aunt Rachel. "Jessica, I owe you an apology. Your mother told me a completely different version of events. I should have reached out to you directly before making judgments. If you need anything at all, please let me know." Uncle William had commented publicly. "I've known your mother my entire life, and I should have remembered her tendency to reshape narratives. I'm sorry I didn't hear your side first." Even Cousin Peter had messaged. "Jess, we always saw how she treated you. Should have spoken up sooner. My spare room is yours if you need it." Each message peeled back layers of isolation I hadn't fully acknowledged. For years, I'd internalized my mother's narrative that I was the problem, that my support wasn't enough, that my presence was an inconvenience. Now, seeing others recognize the truth felt like oxygen rushing into a sealed room. But the validation came with its own pain. If they had seen how she treated me, why had no one said anything? If her behavior was recognizable enough that they immediately believed my account, why had I been left to navigate it alone for so long? My mother's response came exactly as I'd predicted, in waves that perfectly tracked her standard emotional manipulation playbook. First came the wounded innocence. "I can't believe you would humiliate me publicly like this, after everything I've done for you." When that received no response, she pivoted to outright denial. You're twisting my words. I never told you to leave. You chose to walk out. You're making yourself the victim as always." And finally, when the silence continued, she reached the bargaining stage. "I think we both said things we regret. We should talk about this privately, as a family." I didn't respond to any of it. There was nothing left to say. The facts were public now, and they spoke for themselves. 3 weeks into my new independence, I bought myself a real couch. Not secondhand, not from a discount warehouse, but a brand new sectional in exactly the color I wanted. I positioned it exactly where I wanted it. I ate dinner sitting on it while watching shows at full volume, small rebellions that felt like declarations of independence. Then one evening, as I was returning from the grocery store, I saw Olivia sitting on the steps outside my building. Her face looked thinner, shadows under her eyes pronounced even in the dim hallway lighting. "It's gotten worse," she said without preamble once we were inside. The mortgage payment bounced. The electricity was shut off for 2 days before she managed to borrow enough from Grandma to turn it back on. She's blaming you for abandoning her, but she's also refusing to look for work, says her health won't allow it, though she seems fine when her friends invite her out. I set down the grocery bags, the familiar weight of responsibility already pressing on my shoulders. For a moment, I could feel myself calculating what I could cut from my budget to help. Then I caught myself. "I'm sorry you're dealing with this," I said carefully, "but I can't go back to that situation." Olivia's response stopped my breath. "I know. You did the right thing by leaving, Jess. You should have left sooner." She looked around my small apartment with its mismatched furniture and bare walls. "This place has more peace in it than that house ever did." Coming from the only other person who had lived under that roof, her words were both validation and absolution. She wasn't asking me to fix things. She was confirming I'd made the right choice in not setting myself on fire to keep someone else warm. "I'm thinking about moving out too," she admitted, "once I figure out how to make it work financially." "When you're ready," I promised. "I'll help however I can." We ordered takeout that night, talking openly about childhood memories we'd both reinterpreted as adults, the subtle favoritism our mother had shown her younger brother, our uncle, the way she'd isolated our father from his friends before their divorce, patterns we'd been too young to recognize then, but could name clearly now. The knock on my door came exactly 5 weeks after Christmas. Through the peephole, I saw my mother standing in the hallway, holding what appeared to be a store-bought apple pie. Her hair was freshly done, her smile practiced. I stepped into the hallway rather than inviting her in, closing my apartment door behind me. My sanctuary remained mine. "Jessica," she began, her voice taking on the gentle tone she used when asking for favors. "I've missed you. Things aren't the same without you around." She extended the pie slightly. "I thought maybe we could have dinner sometime, talk things through." I studied her face, looking for any sign of genuine remorse. "Did you come to apologize?" I asked directly. She paused, the practiced smile faltering slightly. "I don't think I need to," she replied, her true self showing through the performance. "I think we both made mistakes." And there it was. The confirmation that nothing had changed except her circumstances. No recognition of what she'd done, no accountability, just the expectation that I would once again adjust to accommodate her needs. "I wish you well, Mom," I said quietly, and closed the door. I didn't slam it. I didn't yell. I simply closed it firmly, the soft click of the latch more final than any dramatic gesture could have been. Inside my apartment, my home, I stood for a moment with my hand still on the doorknob. I waited for the familiar surge of guilt, the gnawing worry about whether I was doing the right thing. It didn't come. Instead, I felt something unfamiliar. Peace. The post I wrote remained online, not as an act of revenge, but as a record of truth. Some family members still occasionally commented on it, often tagging others who needed to see evidence that setting boundaries wasn't selfish, that supporting family didn't mean sacrificing yourself. Olivia moved out 2 months later, taking a small apartment closer to her university. We meet for coffee every Sunday morning, a new tradition that belongs entirely to us. Sometimes we talk about our mother, sometimes we don't. Either way, We're building something new from the ruins of what broke us. As for me, I finally enrolled in that graduate program I'd postponed. My apartment now has art on the walls, pieces I chose because they spoke to me, not because they match someone else's aesthetic. I cook meals just for myself, using spices my mother always claimed were too strong. I no longer keep a spreadsheet of expenses paid for others. Instead, I track progress toward my own goals. I'm learning, slowly but steadily, that family is supposed to lift you up, not drain you dry. That love doesn't keep a balance sheet. And most importantly, that peace isn't selfish. Sometimes it's the only way to survive.